let's see who we have. Oh, hey, we got William this week. All right.
Yeah.
William and John.
You didn't.
All right.
You were off last week. I was ready, but I seen you weren't doing this.
My name is Dave, not in Cali, and I had to go to California, so I couldn't do a show because I was not in Cali. I was in Cali, but anyway, as I was talking to John about this Diddy thing. Have you been keeping up on that? Diddy Combs?
A little bit, not really. No.
Oh well, I just can't across it, and then you look at other parts of the mainstream media, and it's just like it's all over the place. I mean, obviously it's not political, but this guy looks like he's like the Epstein of Hollywood. I mean, all the actors that are coming forth and testifying against him is really unbelievable.
Britney Spears was her name, Dave. That's what I was talking about. I was thinking about Britney Spears.
I feel like that what they've done is they've already replaced Diddy with a whole new Diddy, and now Diddy's the fall guy and the new focal point because they haven't stopped. There's no way that they stopped this because they know that their time is only limited so far as how long they can run somebody before that system is exposed to the point where they can't control what's going on. Everything they're talking about, it's like what's happening right now. There's nobody. So it seems to me like this is just, and it's James Comey's daughter that's like, involved in this. And I'm like, that's a red flag. That is a complete. That's why I haven't paid any attention because it's to me, it just seems more of a lull for society. Like, in other words, to kind of like make you feel like there's something big happening. But like the minute that Diddy was going down, there was already somebody that replaced him operating at full capacity. And
I'm sure. But
I agree with that.
A lot of the testimonies coming out, what Jim Carrey, Cruz, all these top, big names, and even some that went against it, and all of a sudden their careers tanked because they didn't get calls anymore. Movies that were in the works got canceled quietly. Things like that. So we're just showing the influence this guy had. But I guess my point is, if he'd kept going, probably eventually, or we may find out he has ties with political people too. Who knows? But it is it is a distraction. I think the mainstream news is enjoying and doing something besides Trump.
Well, I'm gonna put it to you like this. I can say this much. I can remember in the second term of the Obama administration, all of the connections that Barack had with Diddy. That I recall these there was a lot a lot of interaction between Diddy and Obama's and stuff, and people forgot whenever they locked down the whole United States and said everybody needs to stay 6 feet apart, no large gatherings. The Obamas had a huge birthday party. Had a huge birthday party for Barack Obama at their Martha's Vineyard residence with a big party where they were all smoking weed. Erykah Badu was there. A bunch of really high-end Hollywood elites, musicians and all were entertaining this rather large party with thousands of people. Well, I don't know about thousands, maybe hundreds of people there. A lot of people. And you had, like I say, there was weed all over the place and everybody's passing the blunt and nobody's practicing anything related to COVID protocol when this was going on. And that was, and like, I recall. So like, I'm not, not trying to get off subject, but now that I remember this, like, I've been around, and so we would all ride ATVs, and my buddy's wife was wanting to. I don't smoke weeds anymore, but I did at one time, not long ago. I quit a couple years ago, but anyway, she had her face mask on her little scarf, to protect her, her little. But then whenever the doobie would come around to her, she'd lift it up, hit the doobie, and hand it to somebody. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing this for? But anyways, that's just a funny story. But back to P. Diddy. There's Mark Zuckerberg recently was on that Theo Von show and openly admitted to his secret passages that he has leading in and out of his mansions and underground military base or underground facility with where he can leave subterranean and be at his offshore rather large yacht, something there. But that's kind of related to Oprah and Diddy. Because remember, whenever they went and raided the Diddy residence, nobody's talking about this, but one of the Diddy residents that he escaped from, they found out there were like tunnel ways. Yeah. You remember this? It was admitted. It was. Yeah. Nobody's talking about that.
I mean, there's just so much that's thrown out at us that it seems so hard,
Well,
let me grab my plate of food. I'm going to eat and stream at the same time. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Yeah.
One of the things that came up was the how DeGeneres. What's her name? Ellen DeGeneres.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, she was kind of I don't know, directly tied with him, but it's almost like she was a co-person in this because she had a lot of control over a lot of things, and of course she split the country. So in one of the last couple of trials, the judge put a bench warrant out for her arrest. So she's being implemented like almost an equal to Diddy for some reason. And I remember people coming forward saying that she was very, very hard to work with. She did devious things to her staff and forcing him to do and work certain ways and so forth. So she already had the tendencies of using that kind of control, which basically what Diddy was.
Well, she was one of their leaders. She was one of P. Diddy's leaders.
Yeah, what it's starting to sound like. So.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. And so anyway, back on another note, what did I see? I had where is it? Got to go back to where we were.
One of the things that I want to jump the subject of, I want to talk a quick minute about Putin and Xi Jinping. I have no clue what the hell is going on with these people. I mean, even Trump seems like he's beside himself on this. He's been able to work Putin over before. They've got a perfect situation where he can settle himself down. And the same thing with Xi Jinping. In other words, here it is. It's gonna clobber him with these tax tariffs, and they both are putting their chests out and saying no. All of a sudden now it's no again. I have no clue what these people are thinking about for their countries.
Yeah,
literally. I mean, it's not like Trump is going to be running for re-election in the next couple of months or next year. I mean, this is all it is going to do is going to hurt them. By the time it comes back around, it'll be a different story. And pretty much the only ones that I'm really let down about that with all this tariff stuff that has been a pain in the butt has been John Deere tractors. They're not going along with the program. They're going to continue to move out of the United States into Mexico. That I don't think is a good move, and I'll tell you the reason why.
You're going to where I'm
at.
Yeah.
Let me tell you where I'm now. John Deere is one of the biggest tractor manufacturers in the world, and they have a huge plants here in Brazil. As a matter of fact, about a mile and a half away from me, about 2 kilometers away from me, is a John Deere tractor showroom with all their equipment and stuff. I mean, they're all over here in Brazil. They manufacture them here in Brazil, and they're starting to. That's how they got their reputation. Was it was an American-made product, and they really people didn't know that it was made here in Brazil. But they're actually really going to bite their head off, chew their head off by doing this by going into Mexico. I mean, continue with that plan.
And then of course they've got all the big lawsuits going against them, right to repair. John Deere was
Yeah.
really big on everything is proprietary, computer modulated, so you couldn't fix anything, you couldn't work on anything
Yeah.
without getting special codes to be authorized to do work on any of their equipment. And so the farmers were suing them, over the right to repair. And I believe they
Yeah.
won, but
Yeah, they did.
obviously they're
I love it.
still
Yeah,
doing a lot of that. So,
But it just doesn't make any sense.
what are we eating, William? Looks good.
It's like what is this stuff called?
It's called hobo casserole.
Hobo casserole. Got hamburger,
Cheese,
cheese,
cream of chicken,
cream of chicken,
cream of golden mushroom.
cream of golden mushroom, scalloped potatoes in there.
Those are homemade potatoes.
Yeah, she took them. It's really good.
Sliced potato.
Yeah, and fresh green beans too. Good stuff. This is the kind of stuff that you eat so you can survive the depopulation effort that's going at us like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, and you don't know if it's coming from the air above or through the food you eat.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays,
Both. The geological engineering has hit an overdrive. I'm watching it happen even right now. Like, they're spraying hard when it comes to these. When I say spray, I'm misspeaking. I'm misinforming you guys. They don't spray anything. It's actually an additive in the fuel. That's
they put it in fuel. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, that's how that's you can. Well, I'll go off. I mean, I'll kind of in a second here. I'll pull that up, but it's in Wikipedia. You can look it up. It's real simple. Anybody that says, "Well, he's just crazy," so all the people that are lefties hate watching this channel right here or this episode. You can look this up. Where, oh gosh, it's in the fuel. There's an additive in the fuel that creates.
Well, that makes sense.
Effect.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because I was thinking they must have had nozzles or something going into the exhaust, something,
Well, they do have ways of adding silver iodide. It's different, but they use something that looks almost like a big, huge firework mounted on the wings of the airplanes, and they can set them off, and they can do an extended burn with these. They look like real large fireworks mounted to the wings, and when they set fire to these, it looks like a flare gun almost. And at the end of it's a silver iodide substance that's produced, and that has an ampening effect of the, because what happens on the fuel when the fuel is burnt, there's a magnesium alloy output that creates that conglomeration of like moisture particles that create that extended vapor trail that you see, which then turns into if you do enough of them and you get enough of this conglomeration of moisture particles and these vapor trails, which is they call condensation trails, but they're really not normal condensation trails, and that's what they do. And it happens at a lot lower altitude. What you see are a lot of times at altitude where this vapor trail won't dissipate because of that. But anyways, that's a whole other thing.
Oh yeah, you'll see them. You're just as it jets going across, but then there's those that just stay and linger and. They look like a cloud all day long. Yeah.
And they'll get bigger. They'll run the way that they do the grid patterns. They sort of intersect with each other and become one. And then you'll watch the whole sky become an overcast. And, it's an opinion of mine because I don't have anything scientific to substantiate this other than just the fact that I've put two and two together. But, on a cold winter night, if it's like in the teens, it's like really low temperatures on a cold winter night, and for whatever reason, an overcast comes over. For whatever reason, you'll notice that the temperatures will get up above freezing half the time. They'll come on up, because of they call it a cloud blanket. Okay, right. Which is that is a real effect. Now, for whatever reason that overcast is forming, imagine in the summertime. Whenever you want to have, you want to fudge numbers. So if you watch, a lot of times during the summertime in the evenings before the sun starts to go down, you'll see them with these aircraft that run grid. and then it forms. It doesn't rain, but what it does do is it gives you a cloud blanket. And then at nighttime, you notice how much warmer it is. And we all know how they get a number for climate. Right, traps the heat in. So if you think about this, you know, for them to say there's a fluctuation of temperatures, they don't look at the peaks and the lows. They use all the numbers and they add them up and they give you an average. And then they can say, wow, looks like the average temperature has increased 1.3 degrees, because they'll take the lows that normally would be at the nighttime, which would drop down instead of being 80 or 85 degrees at night, you know, it would get down into 68, 70, 71 because of the cloud blanket. Now you have an 80-degree night. It might not get any warmer through the day, but at nighttime it stays so much warmer because of the cloud blankets that appear. Then your average temperature tends to come up a few degrees, which then they can claim, oh, look at the climate change, and stuff like that.
So it's kind of a manipulation of the numbers. Yeah. I mean,
and you know, you don't, you might not necessarily, you know, because I've seen it, you know, where they do that. It doesn't rain, but it just makes it seems like it just stays really hot at nighttime. You're like, wow, it didn't cool off at all last night, you know, for whatever reason. Anyway.
Well, I know you'll like this one. What are those on those poor little rats?
Those are tits mounted on male rats.
Is that what that is? Or it could be multiple, you know.
Penises. Lots of penis, a lot of rat dicks right there sticking out.
Yeah, they were just testing. See which ones.
Well, you know, speaking of weather manipulation there, what you have is nipple manipulation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What have we got here?
Oh, you know, what's this? Let's see if
book that came out that talks about Joe Biden and the people around him seeing that he had cognitive and physical decline. Did you ever have a moment with him where you thought maybe he was unfit to run for president? No.
I thought he was a good president. The only concern I thought he had to deal with was, could anybody do that job until they were 86? And we'd had several long talks. I had never seen him and walked away thinking he can't do this anymore. He was always on top of his brief.
You never saw any cognitive decline.
So
he always craps in his brief.
I didn't know anything about any of this, and I haven't read the book. I saw President Biden not very long ago, and I thought he was in good shape. But the book didn't register with me because I never saw him that way.
Why didn't you read the book?
I didn't want to, because he's not president anymore, and I think he did a good job. And I think we are facing challenges today without precedent in our history. And some people are trying to use this as a way to blame him for the fact that Trump was reelected.
Right. Yeah, wow. Well, I think that was a lot of it. I mean, just the fact that he was our illegal president, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and too many people caught the other side of the line, and they didn't like that.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm just reading here where it's I'm in the back reading on some stuff here. Ukraine wipes out dozens of Russian nuclear bombers in drone strike. Deep inside Russia, escalating war with Russia. And Trump was not notified. Takes place 2 days after Lindsey Graham visited with Zelensky. You know, like at some point, have we pulled out of NATO yet? Has Trump done that yet?
No.
Damn. He better. Because we don't need no part of this, because this is NATO backstabbing the United States. Yeah, I mean, they see every time that, you know, because what happened the first time, what pissed off Putin was he's trying to fly in his helicopter right in the midst of peace talks. And what people don't realize is these dumb lefties, and not even dumb lefties, but just normies, the whole thing between Russia and Ukraine was all boosted up by NATO getting, you know, here's Zelensky, give you some cocaine. You can be a cocaine president. And they needed Ukraine to, like, gosh, I'm trying not to make this long. Man, I hope. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, I'm going to give you a scenario. As children in a playground, you're standing there. Somebody comes up to you and said, "Did you hear about what that feller said about you?" And you look across the park, the park. You look and that dude ain't said nothing about you, but somebody said he did, and you're over there pissed off. Well, then next thing you know, that person that they said that they pointed out to you, somebody goes in his ear and says, "Hey, did you hear about what that guy said about you?" And next thing you know,
exactly. Yeah,
and so they boosted it. And they escalated something that never would have happened. They kept telling Zelensky to keep moving in on Ukraine, and see what people don't realize, the history of where border lines moved over time back and forth, but people didn't. See, border lines changed, but people didn't. Imagine if you're in a state and all of a sudden you're in a different state where you still think you're a North Carolinian, even though I gotta get this big dog out of here because she just knocks everything over. Even though you're now in South Carolina or whatever, and so you're going to act like a North Carolinian because you were lived here your whole life, And so there was a lot of people that are in Ukraine now that were actually part of Russia, and as the border lines changed, they just chose to kind of still be like Russian type people. They weren't hurting anybody, but they kind of went along the party lines of what Russia was doing. And those were the ones, by the way, that were being persecuted against in the beginnings of this conflict because they wouldn't fall in line with Ukraine's narrative. And those are the ones that you remember the videos that came out of all these quote unquote Ukrainians, but they're actually really Russians, but they were Ukrainians because of the war. They were being taped to poles and painted purple and all kind of stuff. And so, can you shut that door? I've got like dogs just coming in here. That's what happened earlier. A girly dog came in here and knocked my camera all over. But anyways, I'm really not going to take sides on this other than I can see where Russia's coming from, because they've been.
Yeah, me too. But it also makes you wonder, like you said, Lindsey Graham's gone there. It says he's gone there 9 times. It's almost like he might be working against us.
Oh, of course he would.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Lindsey Graham and that Mark Kelly guy with his eyeballs that are so close together, he has a hard time finding sunglasses that fit. That's a weird looking dude, man. Most time when I see dudes that look like that, I'm just not. I don't even want to interact. Something's just not right. They're like, there's something going on there. Their little beady little eyes that are real close together, or something.
Well,
there's a persona that
beware of people with beady eyes.
Yeah, you're top down because I haven't met anybody with beady eyes.
So this actually happened today.
Yeah,
this actually happened today.
So the beginnings of peace talks, I got on a long rant about how this all started because I guess I don't know why, but I like to remember because if I don't remember, I'll forget. But Putin is like flying around in his helicopter doing Putin stuff, and all of a sudden a bunch of drones come and attack and try to kill him. And do you recall whenever Zelensky was at the White House going, "You will have your people will be dying in hot water. You will feel it. You look." He knew this was not a veiled threat to Trump, even though he was an idiot. He knew that he had people that were ready and willing to go and do all this stuff. And I said this in the video. I think that Zelensky knew he wasn't going to get money from Trump. He wanted to make a scene so that it would get Trump to act out. And that way it'd get the media talking points to go, look how mean Trump is. But he knew. Yeah. Why do you think that he would act like that? I mean, he knew he was going to get the money. So he figured, well, I'll go there anyways, and I'll poke and prod Trump and get him to act out, and then make him the asshole, even though it's cocaine sniffing Zelensky, and because he knew he was going to get the money, and he made this threat because he knew that NATO would go behind the United States back, and our own politicians would go behind the backs of the people trying to do the peace talks and do this. He knew this,
right.
So If Trump doesn't
So I
see what's
noticed
going
the
on,
last comment on here, it says everyone knows it's not Ukraine who pulled this off, right? So even this article is saying something else is up.
what? First,
Says the
where did
drones were released from trucks in Russia.
Well, well, I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that, and I don't see why. Why would Russia do a false flag on itself? They're already winning.
Yeah,
they don't need to do that.
They're already winning.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's common warfare to cross party lines with weaponry to attack from within because it's easier that way. Because how would you fly a drone that far? I mean, you might have issues with the longevity of the batteries and all that. So you need to figure out a way to release these things close range. If I'm not mistaken, partly too because of the fact that they don't have the. You got to shut that one. But partly too, if you think about it, they don't have the guidance capabilities because Trump pulled that away. So their guidance capabilities kind of compromised. So they need to be somewhere within a close range operative of these drones to make that actually work.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to this week there?
Oh, man. Me? I don't know, working. And
yeah.
I've been building up. I've been just doing. You've probably watched some of my Fix It channel stuff where I've been dealing with the stationary engine stuff, and I just been in some. Been doing setting up a bunch of machine equipment. And that's a big thing. I've been putting a lot of time into that, and cranking out videos on my other channel. I haven't done a video Friday, yesterday, or today because I've been just busy. Friday I didn't leave the shop till 8 o'clock. Friday just had so much cars to work on. But I've been keeping up with all the current events and posting them memes to keep the fight strong. The memes are
going,
the memes really pay off. I was actually one of the first persons that, by the way, that reported on the Secret Service agents that were fighting over the Obama residence. I remember that I was one of the first people that brought that out, and everybody's jumped on it. I'm like, I did that a week ago. Wait a minute. Here's an article too, by the way. I just pulled this up. I haven't had time to read it yet, but let me see here. We're gonna read this together. Let's see here. Okay. Present share screen. It says more details on what happened. I had some suspicions, by the way, like in my video. I was like, wonder what caused this. And I haven't read the article yet, but wouldn't it be crazy if it was like lesbian love affair? I'm just guessing. Let's see. See, it says here, let me get this up. Here. And we're going to read this in real time because I don't even know. I'm just wondering. I just kind of speculated. 2 female Secret Service agents were suspended after they recently got into a physical fight outside Barack Obama's D.C. residence. Video of the physical fight between the 2 female Secret Service agents outside the Obama residence was released on Tuesday. And it's, I whooped this girl's yes. And one agent shouted as 2 Secret Service uniformed division officers got into a physical fight. There's audio and all this stuff. Okay, we know about that. I want to know what happened. Why did it happen? It says more details have done this. Say, according to the Real Clear Politics, reporter Susan Crabtree, multiple Secret Service sources say the one woman uniformed division officer was triggered because the officer coming to relieve her at the end of her shift was late. Oh, another well-placed Secret Service source says the replacement officer was only a few minutes late, and the woman officer who started the fight wanted a Dodge Durango. Okay, and not the Ford Explorer. Oh, so in other words, it was over the vehicle. So they, it's almost like a front seat. Like, I get front seat, bitch. And it's like, no, I want front seat, and they fit. So anyway,
shotgun.
Pretty. It was way pettier than I thought. I was, I could see a lesbian love affair where it'd be but this is actually way pettier. Let's see that the other officer arrived in. The officers apparently have a choice of cars they can check out when they go on duty. And if that's so, the other one wanted to drive the Durango home and leave her with the Explorer, and the other one said, "Nah, bitch, I want that damn Durango. You drive the Explorer home." Anyway, so that's. Could you imagine something as significant as being a Secret Service agent, and you're you're just gonna be more worried? You know, I want this. I want front seat. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, you're in good hands, people. Like, are like, I gotta be careful because I have a lot of like bias towards these activist judges, and I don't want to wish anything that I'd regret later.
Oh yeah.
I would in my let's say activist judges, go fly somewhere on Boeing stuff, please.
Oh my God! Talk about bizarre news. Walmart agreed to a settlement with New York after accidentally shipping toy guns to liberal states. Apparently, it was against the law to ship a toy gun. I mean, really? Oh my God! Unbelievable.
Hey, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to ship real guns and put them in the hands of
right.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, I'm thinking maybe it's I think it was around 58 or 57. Their Mattel had a pistol, a gun, plastic gun called a shooting shell, and that I had one of those. I had one of the rifles, and it was a little plastic piece. I think the bullet head of the bullet was like a green plastic or whatever. And they had those in some places. They would not sell those guns because some of you old expression, poke your eye out. In other words, see if you could get hit in the eye with something like. But it wasn't very powerful. But it's just I remember that happening all the way back in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, well, they ended up paying $16,000 for penalty for shipping the toys, and then they also had to pay $14,000 in fines. So, well, for Walmart, that's probably nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. But it just blows me away that that's a thing. I mean, really? I mean, I know they made it to where now toy guns have to have a little orange thing on the end or something like that. But
yeah,
for them to get in trouble for shipping a toy gun, and maybe the guns didn't have the little orange tab on the end. I don't know. Doesn't say anything about it though.
Well, recently there's been a lawsuit filed by a lady who's claiming that some oil company is responsible for the death of a person due to climate change. Did you hear about that?
No,
you heard about that?
No.
Huh.
Well, it's true. There's been a lawsuit. I can't remember. I've got to find out, and I maybe need to do it. It just popped in my head since we're talking about stuff. But
yeah. Well, that's what this is all about anyway. We just talk.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. So all it would take to go after an oil company for something like that would be to have an activist judge that ruled in cases similar to like Alex Jones and Donald Trump, where they asked for some sort of discovery that they couldn't provide. It said provide us with the paperwork of your communications about such and such when it comes to this stuff, and they're going, we don't have that. That's when the judge can say, well, I'm ruling your case in default because you're not cooperating or something like that. And then the people win their case. I mean, that would open the doors to come after energy production under the like because you've seen this happen when they went after Alex Jones, then they started going after other people in the same manner. You watch that, right?
Yeah.
You know how they you know about that. Do you know the details of how they went after Alex Jones? What's up, AC Cruz? Howdy, by the way. Waving
well, not a whole lot. I remember that, but I don't know what it was.
They said that they claimed a bunch of stuff he did and then the parents
Well, I know
sued.
there's something about the school shooting, and he got lawsuits about all that, and they were trying to take his business down, and then he also had to sue over his name. He couldn't use his name or some damn thing like that.
Yeah, he didn't sign away anything like that. All of his stuff was never under a server. That was they were trying to do the same thing they did to Prince. See, Prince had signed his likeness to the Sony Corporation back in the day, and that's why Prince became the artist formerly known as Prince, because he was a way for him to maintain his image as Prince, but not be called Prince, because that was actually Sony's trademark, and that was
being a trademark.
Yeah, and he didn't have the money to do anything different. He got screwed out of that by that point, and it really affected his career. And I don't know what happened there. I don't know why they say he overdosed. I think that something else happened. But anyways, you could ask Randy Quaid about what happens to stars when they don't want them around anymore.
Randy Quaid, yeah.
You know about that? You know about that, right? Randy Quaid actually put together a group of people who were investigating a thing called Star Whackers, where there was an elite group of hit people that were going after Hollywood stars when it was time for them to not be around anymore, and they would always be blamed a suicide or an overdose. And,
wasn't that part of Diddy's program? No.
You actually are not far from the truth there, and that may or may not come out in court. It needs to. It probably won't, because that's Hollywood's power structure so far as keeping people in line. Because once you get involved in Hollywood, you understand that is a real thing.
That's what a lot of the testimony was. That was a repeated thing during the testimony of him talking about. A lot of people would say, well, people would just disappear, and I didn't want that to happen to me, and it wasn't that they just went off grid or moved out of the country. They literally disappeared where they did not exist, and a body was never found. Kind of thing. So, But
and those are professional hits.
Seems like the biggest people that are the biggest effect of people coming against Diddy ended up being like the housekeeper, the one that cleans the house, because she came forward and told about a bunch of stuff that when she cleaned up after these parties and so forth. And so she was actually, and of course now the defense is, they're going after her credibility. They're going after all social media posts, where she talked like she was pro Diddy, like my mentor and all that. But that was before, a lot of that was before she realized all the, all what was going on. And so as things got worse and worse, of course, she eventually actually ended up quitting the job because of what was going on and so forth. And of course, they've managed to find her and convince her to testify. But it really doesn't look good for him. They got so much testimony against this guy. I don't know how. It doesn't matter how many millions of dollars he throws at it. He's not going to get out of this. I don't think.
Depends upon the judge, as we've learned over the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, yeah.
They make something out of nothing.
By the judge, right? But we do have jury. It does have a jury, so that's the thing. It's got to be able to sway all the jurors too, somehow, some way.
Huh.
Well, look what happened in New York.
Well, yeah,
it's going to be interesting when Letitia James comes up for trial in both Virginia and in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Hey, I found what I was talking about earlier right here. It's interesting. For the first time, a woman in the U.S. is suing a major fossil fuel companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Shell, BP, Conoco, Phillips 66, and BP Substitute Oil, Olympic Pipeline Company, in a wrongful death suit. She alleges that their actions contributed to her mother's death during the 2021 heat dome.
Really? I mean, how can you even prove? That would be really hard to prove.
Well, okay, all right, you're right. It would be, but okay. So getting back to some of the details, this is a very important point as to what happens when you set precedent in courts and legal maneuvers that aren't ethical but yet legal, because this is how you work. An ethical judge wouldn't allow this to happen. But let me quickly move on to that. Now, whenever Alex Jones was being sued because the parents said they were harassed by Alex Jones fans that were put into a fanatical rage against these parents because parents claimed that they were harassed by Alex Jones fans, that they were that they called their house and they said something to them in public. Even though none of these people were ever arrested or interviewed or even looked for in these huge lawsuits, because if you ask me, those people were deep state actors that were actually put to the task of harassing these parents to give them a case to go off of. This all happened back in the right, not long after the Sandy Hook thing took place. Now, the judge asked the Alex Jones defense team to produce some form of paperwork. There are some documents that the judge wanted to read over related to, I can't remember the exact thing, but they just simply didn't have them. They didn't, some people just don't have documents on stuff. You don't document every move you make. So a judge has just got to find some way to look for some way that they'll request information. And if you don't have it, then they'll, instead of, saying, okay, well, we understand you don't have it. Okay, good. It's no big deal. They'll say that you're not putting forth the effort necessary to provide information to make this a legitimate case. So that means that you're forfeiting your case and you get ruled against by default judgment. So Alex Jones and
not having enough.
Right. Yeah. They wanted some information related to a bank account. And you just willingly didn't bring it to them because you just aren't going to bring it to court. And we all know that you have records of check stubs and stuff like that. The banks have it. You can get it. That's legitimate. You could say, okay, well, you're just trying to evade any kind of legitimate case here. So yeah, you're going to be ruled against. But if it's some kind of outlandish thing, and an ethical judge wouldn't let that happen. Now, when it comes to climate change, scientific data, things like that, and an activist judge who is adamant about destroying this country and all of our, all it would take would be the judge to request for you to bring some kind of something in. All right, oil companies, bring me a document related to this and this and this. And then the oil company will say, well, we don't have that. They're going to say, oh, okay, well, it sounds to me like you're just trying to play hardball. So we rule against you in default and give this woman gazillions of dollars, which means that opens the door for any kind of any company that does anything. It could be anything. I could, they could come after me as a business saying, you were related, because of the car you repaired, that car struck my grandma, the person who was driving it. If you hadn't repaired that car, that'd be the most outlandish thing in the world. But you're looking at the same scenario, and then they'd sue me for repairing the car, so the car was drivable. And they would come after, I would say, they'd say, you, sir, bring me this paperwork about your repair work. I don't have it. I was saying, well, it looks like they just come after me. And so I'm just saying, so what you're looking at seems frivolous, stupid, but this is a dangerous territory to be in because the activist judges that we have don't.
They're learning other ways of working the system. Yeah, basically.
Right.
They're bending the law.
He was asking questions.
Will Judge Janine Pirro have anything to do with Letitia James' trial in D.C.? I don't know. Oh, that's a good question.
She might.
Why?
I think that.
Why do you say that?
I saw her on, I'm trying to think it was Fox and Friends. I think she was just the other night. And they had asked her, and she said, with a smirk on her face, one never knows, do they? That's all she said.
Yeah. I think that we need to go after Letitia James for their the thing is, some of that stuff you have to have warrants for, but I guarantee you there's communications that would get Letitia James in a lot more trouble than what she's facing right now. You heard about her. She's got some siblings that are all like a bunch of drug heads and did some weird stuff. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I saw very little, but you know, when you have that in your family, they'll do anything for money
Bleed you dry.
or drugs.
Well,
Yeah. Even if it's in your relative, so you would think that they would be causing her trouble too, unless she's supporting their activity.
Well, so I did a video talking about how it's involved in how she ended up getting like her father's estate. She acquired her father's estate at some point through some real nefarious means, and you're supposed to usually have an outside attorney. Right. Yes. Well, it looks like she's got like brothers and sisters that are all messed up. She comes from a severely deteriorated and broken home, which is, we're just right now, since they want to assassinate characters all the time when it comes to legal cases, I have full, I don't care. I'm going to say it, it just shows her character, where she came from. You're usually a product of where you came from most of the time, not always. Some people break free from that and move in a different direction, but, she's her dad was gone, and her brother and her sister, their brother was like, her brother was some kind of dopehead they haven't found in a long time. We don't know if he's dead or alive. It's crazy. But what I'm trying to find it, Letitia James, I seen this article on Gateway Pundit earlier this week, but I can't remember if it's her children. Let's see here. Let me see something. But anyways, there's money that's been moved to these kids. A bunch of she's done some dirty stuff. I'm trying to find. I'll have to find it while y'all talk. Oh yeah, here we go.
A lot worse
here it is, right
than
here.
She even accused Papa
Let me see here. Dang. Let me see. Crimes in the family, Letitia James. Let me see here. Let me get this up. Since we're talking about Letitia James here. These are the two right here. Crime runs in the family. Letitia James buys homes for nieces, jailbird adult kids. Let's see here. Let me get this up. But these are Kayla Harrison and Nakia Thompson. And look at, these are her nieces right here. This one on the left here, this Kayla Harrison at 19, current age is 20. Grand larceny, not more than $1,000 a person. She's stealing from stores. Weapons, false statement on a consent form. So she obtained firearms by not being, and attempted weapons conviction, felon, violent, possesses, transport firearm. That's the one on the left in 1920. Got the fancy neck tattoo. All right. The other one here on the right, full name Nakia Monique Thompson. Wow, 5'9" at 220. She's hefty. Woo, you don't want to, football player. Anyways, burglar. Yeah, that's a woo. Burglary, tools possession. So she was involved in burglary, larceny, grand larceny, and contribute to delinquency, abuse of child, 3 counts of those. Conspire to commit larceny. So apparently Letitia James is buying homes for these kids. And, people like Fannie Willis, her daughter is deep in trouble all the time, constantly getting pulled over without her driver's license because she has a revoked driver's license for a bunch of charges. Been in and out of group homes and drugs and stuff like that, got caught. And this just runs in the line of these are district attorneys. These, and they can't even, they're just tied up with all kind of really bad stuff. And so if they protect these criminals, they're surrounded, their families are all criminals. And like I said, you just look at what Letitia James has been into. I think that if we did some more digging, we could find
Oh yeah.
some real deep stuff on Letitia James and
So
stuff. And
speaking of deep, have you used the Grok deep search on X?
I'm
Have you
pissed
used-
off at Grok. I haven't, but I've watched
You're
a lot
pissed
of
off? How do you get
yeah,
pissed
because
off with AI?
because if you like, so you ask Grok about the Fauci jabs, and it'll tell you that they're safe and effective and good to go. And then
Oh
you
yeah,
ask,
I've even told them that it's biased, and I've done some logic with it, and it actually has come back and said, well, yeah, you're right, and he says, but I'm only as good as the information that I can find on the web. And I said, well, if everybody is putting out the same thing, same talking points, but it all comes from one place and it's wrong, then all your information you compile from all those different places is obviously going to be biased. And it actually agreed with me. I thought, oh, okay. But, that's the thing, you put like all the news. If he searches the news, you're going to get everything from the AP. I mean, because everybody repeats AP, talking points, buzzwords, everything like that. And so the AI is only it takes like 10 of those, says, okay, well, I'm gonna average the information, but it's all skewed to one direction anyway. And so it tries to put it out as fact to you. So yeah, I was just wondering if you'd ever messed with it.
I want to strangle it. I want to kink its little wires.
Have you ever tried to reason with it, just see what it comes up with?
I did chat GPT one time, and I almost felt like the law was going to get called on me because I was saying some pretty. This is when they did what they did.
Right, so much better. It's faster, and it learns too. Now, to what extent? I'm wondering if it learns about you and only applies what it's learned from you to you, or if it applies it globally. I just wonder, because it's actually came back and said, okay, I'll use that in the future. Okay.
Well, I can say this. Something and somebody has hijacked Twitter like badly. Like there is no reason to try to build anything over there. I mean, if you've got boobs, you're good. You can take and put on a MAGA bikini with your boobs out, and you'll have hundreds of thousands of followers. But if you're just an independent content creator and you buy into the blue check mark to help get your account more boosted and not necessarily be favorable, but just at least it's verified. You have that should put you in a bracket of algorithm where you're not just a user of Twitter, you're a content creator. You're going to bring stuff to the table.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people use X as a communication, because have you ever tried to talk to somebody on YouTube? You can't. It's not. You just can't leave a message. You got to put it in the comments where everybody can see it. But where people will say, well, or you can find me on Twitter, or you can find me on Facebook or whatever. Those are outlets that you can communicate or get in contact with.
Well, so I can go to somebody's Twitter page that I want to communicate with and leave a comment there and go back an hour later and I've got one impression. And I can look at the one right below mine, which is way more insignificant in milk toast or any, doesn't, and it's like 15,000, 20,000 impressions. I'm like, the fuck is going, I mean, and like, I can put a post on my page, I do a meme, I can do whatever. And it just, and all you get when you look through your followers are these bots. And they say, well, you got to clean those up. I'm sorry, I can't clean up 60. There's nothing but if I clean up all of my bots, I'll have 200 followers. And, your reach is limited. You get zero engagement. There's absolutely no, Twitter is, the only thing that compares to Twitter with an algorithm is Rumble. I mean, that's just sad to say, but, I will not pay. It was, it was kind of reasonable. It was like, I think it was, what was it, $100 or so? How much was it to get your blue check mark the first time? $80
It
or something like
was
that.
$8. Yeah, $8.
Well, but that'd be monthly, and it was, I forget what it was yearly,
Right.
but it was pretty
But
reasonable. And then
But they were offering
doubled it.
They were offering a year for 10 months, or equivalent to a 10-month.
Well, they doubled
individual
it.
Payment.
When it was time to renew the
Oh,
blue
it's
check
double
mark,
now?
I get an email. I
I'm gonna
got
have
an
to look
email.
to make sure I get a reoccur billing. No, I have a different card now, so they can't. Yeah, they can't.
Yeah, it was $165 so that you can get completely flooded by bots and then get zero engagement. I was streaming over there and doing all this stuff. My live streams, unless Romeo was helping me out, like Romeo would go to those post rooms and, kind of game the algorithm a little bit. And then Elon got pissed off about that and put a stop to that and screwed everybody over. But, you just can't get out. It's a desolate place. Like I said, for some people it works, but you would think you would get a fair shot. Or if you've got boobs, I've seen people that came in there. I know somebody, the content creator, that she's a nice lady. Known her for, interacted with her. I'm not saying anything bad about her, but she knows she puts them puppies out there, with just a MAGA bikini on and shows tattoos and all that. And let me tell you what, went from a rebuild account for her other account was nuked to over 100,000 followers in just 2 or 3 months. Me over here, golly, it's just. And so,
maybe you should buy a prosthetic thing and
boobs. Of course, Elon Musk is real busy, but I have tagged him 100 times in posts saying, "What's going on with your Twitter?" Because, I don't think, I'm not the only person. He's lost a lot of revenue because there's somebody working that. There's somebody in charge of that, because I was doing really good content on there, and it was being shadow banned to the umpteenth degree to where it just demoralizes you. Don't put any effort into it. Simple as that. Same thing Rumble does. Yeah, unless Rumble's
never been any good from the beginning. There was a lot of promises and a lot of things that said that they were joining forces with True Social and all that, but it's just like seems like it's just all void. Yeah,
if you're what's that dude's name? That British guy? Oh gosh, the British guy with the long hair. He's good. He's good. He's a great content creator. He was a movie star for a while there. He was married to Katy Perry. That's kind of ironic, but that British
I know
guy.
what you're talking about.
If you're that guy, or if you're Dan Bongino, or you're good. You're fine. But
people that are well established already, they don't have any problem.
Me at 14,000 subs on Rumble, 1,400 for like 3 years now. Come on, dude.
Yeah. Well, even
no
mine,
reason why I got
I have stuff forward to Rumble, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and the only reason why I got to 1,400 is because I was really believing in Rumble, and thought maybe it was going to be a great alternative. And
you had to sip that Kool-Aid, yeah.
Yeah, and I was pumping it hard on YouTube. I said, "Get me on Rumble, get me on Rumble," and I was putting my community posts, and that's the only reason why I got to 1,400. As soon as I stopped doing that, it's grown none, zero, nada, near, not one, not zero, any.
John complained to YouTube about his channel, and then now all of a sudden he's getting 32,000 to 14,000 on all his little shorts that he's doing. Just out of the blue. I truly believe that if you say or complain, now I did a video about YouTube shadow banding, right? Put it out there. 3 days later, I started having buyer's remorse, and so I pulled it down. And then all of a sudden, my channel started taking off. And I'm really wondering if that had anything to do with me coming out and talking about the shadow banning, which they claim they don't do. But I gave several possibilities of how they do it through manipulation of advertising and taking your monetization away because of the content or something, and using the excuse that some advertisers will not like this content, which has a psychological effect to you, because you'll say, oh, well, maybe I should stay away from that topic. And and of course, anybody that's monetized, they do that. They absolutely do it. They stay away, except for the big guys that are already established. They got all sorts of people behind them now because they've made it big. They can actually go after them if they, if something happens like that. But to us little guys, they can do it to you.
So YouTube's guidelines are no drug use on camera, no waving guns around. You're not supposed to be on camera just waving guns around. Causes, that's a red flag for YouTube. Profanity, they don't like that either. And then if you watch half of these little rap music videos that these little young kids do that have millions and millions and millions of monetized, they smoking weed, they flashing mad guns,
Except it doesn't apply to music videos, right?
No, it's fine if you're going to use your channel to destroy society. You will be loved by YouTube. If I put content out there where I taught kids how to have anal sex at 2 years old, I would probably have a large following and get monetized and have money just coming everywhere. Yeah, but
somebody behind the scenes push a button and say, "Hey,
yeah,
let's get this guy out there."
Yeah. But like me, I'm at like 85,000 subscribers, and I can put a video out, and I get like 240 views. And a lot of the times,
well, look at John. John was getting 20, 30 views.
All right.
And then also
still my videos. The videos take the longest amount of time. Well, I mean, I'm doing, on the average, I'm getting like 32, 35. That still isn't squat. I mean, literally, that's nothing. I mean, that's what I was doing 4 or 5 years ago. But I mean, the memes have been doing good, and so have been the shorts. The shorts, out of every 5 I'll put up there, 4 of them will be between 2,500 and 6,000. And then it'll be the one that the oddball one, which generally has something to do with either sex or whatever, or homosexuality, has something to do with it. Will sit down there at like 85 or 112. So it's just, some things don't make it. And they're most of them, a lot of them, I look at the video itself and see how good it was or how good it is, and it seems to be pretty good. It's got to be the subject matter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but that's just where we're at.
All right. Well, I guess we burned through our hour. I really appreciate you coming on, William, and keeping John in the company. So, anybody watching this later, make sure you check out John's channel. And what's your tagline again? I always forget the numbers at the end.
It's American in Exile 458. Oh, excuse me, American in Brazil 458.
Yes.
Yeah, American in Brazil.
Exile.
Yeah.
And then of course we got William, and he's got a number at the end of his too.
Yeah, well, it's the William Archibald Show now. I've added that little bit to it, and then I think it's 9826.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to get out of here.
Yeah, we're going to get out of here.
Yep.
I'm going to go hit the. See you later.
Hit the bump.